Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm your host, Lisa Oligas. In this edition, we take you to the movies, the drive-in movies. It's an industry with roots that go back more than 100 years. Claude Caver screened the very first drive-in movie in Comanche, Texas in 1921. But it was Richard Hollingshead who opened the country's very first drive-in movie theater as a business in Camden, New Jersey. Drive-ins rose to their prominence in the 1950s. But there have been some difficult years for drive-ins, and many have closed, as you will see in a video that is played when you visit our local drive-ins. We are lucky in our area to have several drive-ins still open in Carthage, Lamar, and Aurora, Missouri. Today we'll hear from the operators of Route 66 Drive-In in Carthage and the Barco Drive-In in Lamar. We begin with Nathan McDonald, a former Jasper County Sheriff's deputy who worked security there and is now the owner-operator of Route 66 Drive-In in Carthage. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
In 2017, you bought the theater following in the footsteps of Mark and Dixie Goodman, who ran it some 30 years. Now it's your family business at a time when many drive-ins struggle. Is family one of the keys to success in keeping it open?
Absolutely. The whole family atmosphere you get from the drive-in experience itself really drew us to it, just to be there and be a part, learn from the Goodmans over the success that they had, and just carry it on with my family.
So, as the video indicated, concessions are kind of one of your really important ways to make money. So when you think about that, do you keep track of your concessions financially? I mean, do you know at the end of like a night or end of the summer if it's been lucrative for you?
Absolutely. We track everything. We look at, even sometimes throughout the night, we look and see how we're going, if we need to make any adjustments. We also base that off what is going to sell. Kids' movies tend to sell more concessions than, say, a PG-13 movie. We know this. We make adjustments to that. But we're constantly looking at the sales, our sales projections, how we order. There's not a lot of space there, so I got to kind of order weekly just to keep stuff as it runs through.
How do you decide what to sell in the concession stand? Have you ever tried anything unusual and said, oh, wait, that might not have been a good idea?
Yeah, so space is virtue, right? So we don't have a whole lot of space there. So we're not in the business of making food. We're in the business of heating food back up that's already been pre-made, like the chili and the hot dogs and the pulled pork. So we've tried different things, but also at the same time, efficiency is king. We have maybe 2 hours at the most to service 800 people sometimes, to get them through the concessions, because once the movie starts, then they're not going to be in line to buy food anymore. So we have a small window to do as most we can and sell as much as we can before we start to film.
Any particular items do you think, hey, we might want to try that, or you thought this would be a good seller and had any success with anything? I mean, you guys do have like dill pickles sometimes.
Yeah, so pickles carried over from the Goodmans. I remember Mark told me specifically, you can't have a drive-in movie without having a pickle, and we sell buckets of pickles. And they're Schwartz, they're big old fat pickles, and we sold, I mean, just hundreds and hundreds of pickles. It's a really hot item, and it's kind of unique. We put it in an old-time wax bag, and so yeah, it's kind of odd.
And then, I mean, we have all the usuals, popcorns, hot dogs. Is there anything that you said, oh, we just really can't do this, that you would want to try? Or one of the things is I know there are lots of theaters, other theaters indoors, that have tried selling alcohol, and some profitably so. Have you ever considered that? No,
we haven't. I'm not really want to go through the license process. We don't allow alcohol anywhere. It's the family environment that we like to stick to, just the hassle that comes with it. So I don't really have any interest for that.
So let's talk about ticket sales, because we know that concessions are really important. Do you get any money from the ticket sale with the film companies?
So it depends on the film. So every week it's a negotiated percentage off of whatever we can work out with the film companies, and it's a stacked percentage. So I'm a double feature theater. So if one's 40% and the other one's 40%, then I'm paying 80. So 80% of my ticket sales go back to the film company. And it's getting tougher to manage as the years go on. It's like a complicated chess game to work out, to put the right movies with the right, to get the best deal and get the most out of the business and the short window that we have to play films. But yeah, it's daunting sometimes.
Yes, and some films are longer than others. Do you have to weigh that when you're like, oh, how long is this movie? Will the kids stay up long enough to watch the second one?
Yeah, a lot of times we look at everything with it. The runtime is not as prevalent as the percentage off of that, but sometimes, okay, Sunday night we got a 2.5-hour film and we don't launch till 9:15. It's going to be a really late night, so you want to look at we look at all facets to see what fits best.
Yeah. So, is this something that can turn a profit, or is it just self-sustaining when this as a business?
Yeah, it can absolutely turn a profit. It depends on how hard that you want to work and how many nights that you want to run. And it's a really unique business because it's actually the only one that you don't have complete control over. You're at the mercy of what Hollywood puts out. You're at the we went with this through COVID, where we had no films to play.
Right.
They put nothing out, so we just had to do nothing but what we call throwbacks or old content or retro for a whole year, which was fun. But it's still really a struggle just to turn a profit or just keep being sustainable because a lot of people were coming out. But it's really odd that you don't have complete control. So I'm always looking at what's coming out. What's the 2024 forecast looking like? What's going to be good? What's going to be bad? So many little factors that play into just making sure you can have a profitable weekend. It's pretty tough.
And speaking of the forecast, I mean, you do have to worry about weather. This is an outdoor theater, and that's, a storm can shut you down.
Yeah, this is outdoor theater, and this is Southwest Missouri. So that's two things that in the springtime can be a challenge. We stick pretty consistently to we run rain or shine. That wasn't the case recently when we had a pretty good scare with a storm coming in at just about the time the gates opened. But I mean, if we lose power, that can be detrimental to us because our equipment is running. It could be some pretty big faults. But yeah, we still stay open. The movie plays just fine through the rain. The only thing that really bothers it is the fog, which we can't control because you won't be able to see the screen.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned during the pandemic, you didn't have a lot of movies. You had concerts, other things. How often do you maybe rent out the theater for private parties? Is that something that's lucrative? Is that part of the business model?
It is, and we do maybe 3 or 4 events a year. The biggest struggle for most people is that they want to do their private event on a Friday or Saturday night.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to give up that for a normal. So whenever we close down through the fall, there might be a couple of businesses that might want to do something. But still, I'm running a little bit later because I like to get into the fall time. People like to wear a hoodie and come out and drink hot chocolate and watch a film. So I like to run a little bit later. But there's just not very many people that want to do a company event on a Monday through Thursday night. So not that often. So
talking movie selection, I mean, you work with an agent. How much choice do you have? How much is it what they'll want to give you and what you're working with?
Yeah, it's 100% my choice, but it's a daunting choice. Of everything that's the struggle for running a drive-in theater is movie selection. You can't win because you're going to make half the people mad and then half the people are excited about what you play. But it's a strategic game where I have this big whiteboard where I put out everything that I got on there. What's coming out next week, and do I have a commitment? Because a lot of times showing a new movie, I have to play it for 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. And if I say, well, I'm not going to do that, they say, well, you're not going to get the film. So do I choose to open it? So I map everything out, and what's this going to look like? What are they going to hit me with as far as a percentage? It's just a big game.
Well, lastly, what is the most satisfying part of running a drive-in theater? Why did you want to get into this world?
Because I'm not from here, and I had never been to a drive-in theater when I came here. And when I did, my kids were small, and I worked for the Goodmans. They would always invite us out when I wasn't there working, and we'd sit on the front row. We sit in the back of my truck. Lights are out, movies on the screen, popcorn's popping. You hear everybody laughing. When you go through those gates, phones go down. People connect as humans again. And that atmosphere you just can't get anywhere else. I've traveled a lot of places and you just can't find anywhere else, and that's what just gets me pumped up for every weekend to come up.
All right. Well, thank you, Nathan McDonald, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. We paid a visit to the Route 66 Drive-In to talk with its fans. And for many, it's a family tradition that started when they were very young, including our guest contributor, David Green.
The journey to the drive-in begins on Route 66, where you get old-fashioned tickets right from the owner.
Adults 12, 11, so 2 adults.
If you're like our family, you arrived early to get a good spot, whether that's in the front row or close to the concession stand. It's been a family tradition since before I could walk or talk. The same is true for Lori Harkness and her grandkids.
He's been here since he could stand up in the front seat of our truck without hitting the headliner. But we started bringing him when he was little, and then we started bringing her when she came along, and we tend to do, if they have kids movies, we'll come on Friday. If they don't have kids movies, then we come on Saturday because they spend the night with us every Friday.
She's what you call a drive-in regular.
We enjoy just really, having the whole experience. Going to the snack bar, eating the snack bar food, the entire thing. We've been doing it since, it's got to be at least 10 years that we've come out every weekend during the summer, that we're not out of town, we're here.
I grew up going to the Lamar drive-in every single weekend. That's what we did in the summer.
Waiting for daylight to turn to darkness gives you plenty of time. Time for kids to play on the playground. Or to pose for pictures in front of the neon sign. Something we tried to do every summer, especially when we brought friends or extended family. Snapshots of my childhood. A trip to the drive-in is something people like to remember.
It just brings back those, feelings and memories of childhood and, being a young adult and having that freedom. And so, but also it's nice to be able to share it. I've shared it with my children and I've shared it with my grandchildren. And so be able to share this experience because young people don't get this experience in many places.
Why is it better to come to the drive-in as opposed to a regular movie theater?
I just like the space. It's so much nicer. You get to enjoy the nature. And so it's just childhood memories. I don't know. I'm not big on the indoor movies. I like the outdoor.
It's very good, cheap entertainment. You get 2 movies and there's good concession stand. You go to normal movies, you're going to be spending 3 times what you're spending here. Making memories with my kiddos. My mom and dad brought us, and now it's our turn to bring my kids.
The family theme carries over to the owners and operators. For Nathan McDonald, it is a family operation.
It's just mainly people that I know. So we're a family of 5, so my wife helps me and all 3 of my kids work here as well. And then I have some local friends. I usually hire their kids. It's not really a full-time job since you're only really open 3 days a week, so it's not a ton of hours.
Pulled pork nachos. Need 2 pickles. Large popcorn.
His staff includes daughter Ayla.
It's kind of challenging, especially when it's goes late at night and then they get home 1 in the morning and you have to sleep in, you have to come pick up the trash, but otherwise it's really fun to have do something with my family and to have something doing every weekend and to be able to get out and talk to people because I'm not very social, but especially when I'm on register, it's very fun to be able to be like, what do you want? And talk to them, and it's really fun.
What's the trash cleanup like? I mean, that doesn't sound that fun.
Oh, it's miserable. Especially for sold out, it's so miserable. You're walking each lane and it's just when is this going to be over?
Right.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's nothing. It's dormant because we're not having anything unless we're getting deliveries for food. But Monday, we're cleaning up from Sunday. Friday, we're getting ready to open. So the property itself is a really old property. It's been running like this since 1949, so it takes constant attention. The lot takes constant attention. Bearing poles when people run over them take constant attention.
Does your dad essentially make you do it, or does he give you the option?
I like to do it.
Okay.
I love to work. Today I even told him, I said, hey, I can go open if you want to stay back. I want to go open because I like being here early enough to be able to walk around and open, and I don't know, I just really like to work. Especially have with my parents is really fun. Originally, my dad was a police officer here, and every weekend I'd come and watch a movie, even if it wasn't a very fun movie. I'd always come and watch it when I was a little kid, and I'd love it so much and be very excited to come.
I've always wondered what it would be like to actually run the drive-in. Nathan says cleanup isn't the only big challenge.
Film selection consumes my ever-living day. That's all I think about. That's all I do. I constantly work on it because it's literally a strategic chess game. Because there's so many variables that go into it. Like Disney, you get a break on Disney's if you play their movies together. You get a break on Warner Brothers if you play their movies together. If I don't open one movie 1 week, I can't get it the next week. I have to wait for 3 weeks before I can get it. There's so many little games that you have to play.
It's a game of strategy, and for that, he uses a giant whiteboard. He calls it his version of a war room.
If I open a Disney movie, Disney usually will hit me with a 2 or sometimes 3 week commitment. And that's really hard to deal with, especially when you're a seasonal business.
I'm back. They do keep you on your toes. What's that?
If there are 2 big hits coming out one weekend, Nathan says he simply can't get them both.
I'm pushing Mission Impossible because I think Barbie's going to be a bigger hit.
That doesn't always sit well with customers.
And they get really upset with me that I can't show the perfect lineup. I'd love to do that. I would love to, but also if I show 2 movies like that, they're each going to be 60% percentage, and you know anything about math, 120% doesn't work out.
But for those who are loyal, it's sometimes less about what's showing than the experience itself.
Fast you see that. Great. And how do we spell that?
It's the atmosphere that you get, it's the environment, it's just different, and people like that.
We love to come out, we love to be outside. It's a friendly, family-friendly place to come. The playground, it's nostalgic. We absolutely love the nostalgia of it.
I have to agree with Laurie. The drive-in is the quintessential place for a movie-going experience. It is evident the impact it has on families, including my own, and the impact it can have on future generations. Here at the 66 Drive-In in Carthage, Missouri, I'm David Green.
Show starts in 1 minute. Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack. Promise to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, your sweet tooth. So visit our refreshment center now. Let's go!
Yum, yum. It's a meal in itself. Our all-meat super dog. Enjoy one now.
And now, on with the show.
Welcome back to Newsmakers, where we are talking about drive-in theaters. We've seen it's a family tradition that in some communities struggles to survive. But here in Southwest Missouri, they are surviving in Carthage and also in Lamar. Joining our conversation is Scott Kelly with the Barco Drive-In in Lamar, which is a community-owned drive-in. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Lisa?
So tell us how this works, that you have a community-owned drive-in.
Yeah, we lease the community betterment is a form of the plaza in town, and when the drive-in was getting ready to close back in 2007, they asked us if we would lease it to keep it running. The family did, the Feltz family, and of course we did, and so now we're taking care of both of them.
So you're kind of in charge then. Is there a board of directors? How are you the decision maker?
I'm pretty much the decision maker. They let me take care of everything, but there is 5 different board members that are on there.
And do you have to manage all the bills then yourself?
I give them to a CPA, and they take care of everything for us.
So let's talk about the Barco. I mean, you were just telling me a moment ago, it's one of the longest running in Missouri. Is that correct? How is it?
It opened in the spring of 1950 and has never shut down.
That's amazing.
So.
Now, we earlier saw a video. I mean, it's kind of gloom and doom as an industry, it's kind of sad because so many have closed. And that video said that at one time there were 4,000 and now only 400, but now you say it's even less than that this year.
It's less than 300.
Wow. And we are so lucky in Missouri to have several operating.
Yeah.
So tell us what makes yours successful.
I think it's just, it's a small town atmosphere, there's just something about drive-ins, period. Families can go and, practically bring their home with them. And some do, which is neat. I mean, you see them with playpens and tents and, different things and, they just couches, they just bring everything with them and it's a piece of their home while they're here, and I think it's just a neat thing.
Yeah. So we think of it as a summertime thing, but you and the Carthage Theater have kind of even gone into October and shown movies. Has that been successful for you,
Yes.
and why do that?
Yeah, it actually, in years past, it was actually even better than it is now. But the first year of the pandemic, we actually stayed open through Christmas.
Wow.
And it was successful. This last year there wasn't as much product, so I didn't. But this year is looking better, so we may actually stay open longer this year.
So is it the idea of horror movies and Halloween, or are there other things that you still show in October?
Yeah, Halloween movies are always successful. There's something Freddy's, I can't think of the name of it. It's coming out in October, and I think it's going to be probably a big one. It's, there's several horror movies coming out. So they're not my cup of tea, but they do business.
They have fans.
Yes, they do.
So let's talk about what are some of the biggest challenges for you at your drive-in theater?
Well, like I say, getting the right product that people want to see, and just maintaining the property and keeping everything going. And digital is not as easy as 35 millimeter was.
Really?
Your 35 millimeter could run, years without any trouble at all. And digital, sometimes you'll have something go wrong with it every season.
Wow.
So I mean, and we have a brand new projector that, it's given us a couple problems here and there.
Well, I know it's expensive to convert from
Yes.
the film to the digital medium, but it seemed like it was almost a must-do, wasn't it?
Yeah, the studios didn't give you a choice.
Wow.
If you didn't convert, they weren't going to make any new film.
Oh,
So
you had to.
You had to, yeah.
So do you ever sell out? Do you have to worry about, how do you keep track of, oh my goodness, we have too many cars?
Yeah. We have we know how many we can hold, and I have a little clicker, and when every car comes in, we click that car, so you know what car count you're at.
So do you ever have to worry about overselling, or,
We haven't for quite some time.
turning people away? You hate to turn people away.
The last time we turned cars away was It.
The movie It, okay.
So that was, and we turned them. It was they
So
were
in
like
that
clear
case,
down
do
the
you
highway.
think of showing it another night?
We did. It played another weekend, and actually we played it another night that week too. So, but yeah, it was a lot bigger than I think even the studios expected.
Yeah, you talked about, we talked about converting to a different kind of film format. These are kind of like gravel plots of land. Is that something that also requires maintenance, and you have to fund that?
Yeah, well, you're constantly having to try to kill the weeds, and the rest of it we have to mow, of course, and we have someone that takes care of all that for us. And it's a pretty good property to take care of. The weeds are the worst thing. Just trying to keep them dead.
So, is there more maintenance in the summer or the fall, or can you divide it up?
More in the summer, like say in the fall, your grass kind of, luckily is not really growing. So but I'm out there almost every day checking on it because it's a big piece of property, and that's one thing with drive-ins, and I'm sure Nathan has that problem, is people want to see it. Even when you're not open, they want to go on the property.
Yeah. Well, especially the neon signs, they make a great backdrop for pictures. Now, Nathan mentioned you two communicate. Even though you might seem like you're in competition, is it not competitive? Is it more of a friendly work environment?
Yeah, we're very lucky to run two businesses that there isn't very many of them in Missouri. So we're very lucky to be able to, we can communicate and talk back and forth and discuss the business and how things are going.
Is there a camaraderie among drive-in owners?
I know there is with us, and I've talked to the guy at Aurora a little bit, but not a lot. But Yeah, I mean, it's when you consider there's maybe 10 or 13 in Missouri, a lot of other, there's not that many left.
Right.
So I mean, we're very unique that we have these type theaters in Southwest Missouri.
We talked a little bit about the film companies with Nathan about how there are rules. Is that a challenge for you when it comes to trying to book a movie?
Yeah, especially when you open a new one, the studio is going to want their own movie to play as a second feature most of the time. And
you can't mix and match them.
Right. To get, like say, you couldn't open Oppenheimer and Barbie together because your terms were going to be 100+%, which meant they took everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just can't do that.
Right. So you need, usually, the same film company, you want to have both movies from them.
Yeah.
And then...
If at all possible.
If at all possible, yeah. And do you ever have to worry about, because you're from a relatively small community, people saying, well, I saw that last week.
Yeah. Yeah, you do have that problem sometimes. But when you have a movie as big as what Barbie is right now, it's, people aren't going to get out to see it the first week because they think, oh, they're going to be full. So we'll wait and see it the second week. So it, generally, a 2-week run in a small town is pretty good, sometimes more.
Do you get repeat business?
Yes. There's some people that will come every weekend, especially if you switch out the first feature. They'll be there and then they won't stay if they've already seen the first one.
Okay. Sometimes you bring back movies, kind of go retro. Yeah. How do those play?
Some of them will do exceptionally well, like Grease and Dirty Dancing are two that do exceptionally well. We could probably play them every year and they would do something. Wow. E.T. is one of those that does well. Willy Wonka, a few of those.
They're very kid-friendly movies.
Yeah.
So would you say your drive-in also caters to families?
Yeah. Yeah, we play very few R-rated films.
Yeah. Do you feel like your drive-in is profitable or is it self-sustaining?
It's self-sustaining, and because by the time you pay everybody and everything, it keeps it, it's technically be the same as if you were, somebody that owned the business and, making the money off of it. The employees are really the ones that make the money off of it.
Well, why is it important to you and to the community of Lamar to keep a drive-in open?
Well, it's like I say again, there's less and less every year, and we're very fortunate to have one that still is, being supported, and the town loves it.
Why does the town love it? What do you think they love about it so much?
Well, I think it's, being able to go out and watch a movie on a big screen that's still our original screen, which has been there since 1950, but it is needing some work. But, being able to see a movie on a big screen with your family, it's just... And under the stars, and you can see shooting stars out there, that go by at night, and it's kind of neat.
An awesome family experience.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Scott Kelly, for all you do.
Thank you, Lisa.
That wraps up this edition of Newsmakers on local drive-in theaters in our community. We hope you get a chance to experience one on a weekend soon. I'm Lisa Allegas. Thanks for watching.